Jesus' teaching style.
Cynthia, how did Jesus teach the people?
Jesus had several methods that he used that fit into his culture. Just as today we might use something that's around us, or we might talk about the internet or television or YouTube or cell phones, Jesus taught with things that were common in those days. Here we are today in this beautiful environment. It's a little bit natural, but it also has some city. And Jesus would have used all these things. In fact, he did at the time that he was here.
Jesus used common things to illustrate his points.
Jesus made stories about common everyday things. He also talked about objects common in everyday life. Can you hear the train whistle? I'm sure if Jesus were here, he would make a story about the train, because that's what he did. He used things in the environment around people that they understood to get their attention and to tell them something. Maybe he would be saying, oh, the train, that's the heaven-bound express, and everybody needs a ticket to get in.
Jesus taught by similes and metaphors.
When Jesus and his disciples went through a village in Samaria, Jesus sat by a well, and a woman from town came out to the well. Can you guess what Jesus talked to the woman about?
Yes, the well.
Exactly. Jesus used the well to explain to the woman about living water. And he said, if you knew who you were talking to, you would ask me for water, and I would give you water that would never make you thirsty. So just being there, Jesus gave a lesson to that woman that she never forgot.
Jesus spoke to each person's need.
When Jesus was in a big group of people, he took a child to him and said, this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. So while people were looking at the child, they knew that something about the childlike traits of trust and humility were what was needed to be the kind of person that would please God.
Jesus taught by hyperbole or exaggeration to gain people's attention.
Sometimes Jesus taught by exaggeration. For example, he would say, if you want to follow me, you need to hate your life. You need to hate your family. And this was very a strong statement, wouldn't you say?
You know, sometimes I feel it's confusing me, and I'd like you to explain that to me.
Jesus was making a very strong statement to get people's attention. He was overstating it. And we do that today too. In American culture, we will say, it's killing me. This is killing me, or I hate it, or everybody does this. Nobody does that. Nobody likes chocolate, or everybody loves chocolate. Or another expression is, this is to die for. Some people say this chocolate cake is to die for. Well, we know they're not going to stand before a firing squad and be killed to eat a piece of cake, but it's just a really strong way of stating it. And that's what Jesus was doing. I think you're right, it is confusing. But I want to ask you, have you ever said anything stronger than you meant to, like, this is killing me?
Yes, when I have a headache, I always say the headache is killing me. And I know it's not meaning that
but you're still here.
Yeah, but I'm
Right.
still here. It's true.
So that's what Jesus was doing when he said, if your hand offends you or causes trouble for you, cut it off and throw it away. Or if your eye offends you, throw it away. What he meant was not that he wanted all of his followers to be blind, but just to think about what's more important. He said it's better to go to heaven with one hand than, to have something stand in your way. And his lesson to us was, if there's something in your life that's keeping you from God or keeping you from doing his will, just forget about it. And actually, even though that is strongly stated, I have used it in my life to help me guide what I want to do with my time. And there are some things I ended up thinking, you know what, I'm just going to cut that out and throw it away because it is not helping me live the kind of life I want to for the kingdom of God. Not that there was a rule anywhere, but that I felt listening to certain kind of music or doing certain things wasn't helpful. And I think that was what this is. It's a guideline. It doesn't mean to actually do it literally, but Jesus was getting people's attention with a strong statement, and they knew he didn't mean it. Just like when you say your headache is killing you, I'm not calling the funeral parlor to plan your funeral. What I have found is that many people do not understand the special style Jesus used, and they can take things out of context or try to interpret it in a modern way and get very confused by it. I'm sorry to tell you, friends, there are even some people I have noticed, some Muslims, that purposely will twist what Jesus said in order to make it seem like he was teaching a message he never would have said. The last way that Jesus taught people, Huda, was by example, by the way he lived. We say that Jesus showed us the way. And St. John told us if we want to say that we're following Jesus, we must live the way Jesus lived. So we use him as our example. He taught by example. Jesus said he didn't come to be served, but he came to serve others. And in the Gospel of Mark, we are told he came to serve and give his life as a ransom. And then he told his disciples, you too should give yourselves and you should serve. And the night before he was crucified, Jesus did something that shocked everybody. Did you know that he washed his disciples' feet?
Yes.
Have you heard that?
Yeah, I heard about that.
And in those days, that was something that a low-level servant would do. But Jesus said, I am doing this to show you that if I will kneel before you and wash your dusty feet, you should do that for others. And I don't want you, as my followers, my disciples, Christians, living, trying to say, well, I'm the best. I am one of the 12 disciples, or I'm one of the women that was following Jesus. No. He wants those of us that know him best to be very humble and to be willing to do humble tasks. And Jesus was our best example because the Bible tells us in Philippians that even though Jesus was God, he humbled himself and he didn't force everyone to honor him. He allowed himself to be crucified as our sacrifice for sin. And wouldn't it be great, Huda, if we could all live up to that example?
Yes.